Hi, I'm Cherie Butler, Deputy Superintendent at Statue of Liberty National Monument in Ellis Island. I'm standing on the balcony above the beautiful registry room known as the Great Hall, located inside the Ellis Island National Museum of Immigration. This is perhaps the single most important space on the island, as it played a central role in facilitating one of the largest global migrations in human history, what became known as the Great Atlantic Migration. More than 12 million immigrants were processed in this room, so imagine how it might have sounded and felt. Hundreds of immigrants crowded in this room, awaiting their turn with the immigration inspector, anxiously unsure but hopeful that the outcome would be the start of a new life in the United States.
Hello, I'm Ranger Catherine. Ellis Island is located in the New York Harbor just off the coast of New Jersey, amidst a backdrop of iconic landmarks and unrivaled views of the Manhattan skyline and the Statue of Liberty. Until the opening of the inspection station here, immigration was not regulated by the federal government. The number of people moving to the United States from overseas was low due to difficulties of travel, so states were allowed to make their own rules for newcomers entering their shores. In the late 19th century, steamships made trips to the United States from other continents faster, safer, and more affordable. As steamship travel became more accessible, many Europeans were deciding to leave their home countries due to factors such as conflict, famine, and persecution. At the same time, the U.S. was steadily gaining a reputation as a land of opportunity. Arrivals of immigrants to the United States began to sharply increase in the 1880s. This caused the federal government to take over regulating immigration from individual states for the first time in the nation's history. Since the Port of New York was one of the busiest points of arrival, Ellis Island was selected as the site of the first federal immigration inspection station, opening in 1892. About 80% of immigrants passed their inspections in a few hours with no issues. 10% of immigrants were detained for a medical reason, and another 10% were detained for a legal reason. After a stay in the hospital or a legal hearing, most of the detained immigrants were allowed to enter. Only about 2% of the 12 million who are processed at Ellis Island were not allowed to enter the United States. However, most people who found themselves in this room were unaware of their high chance of success. Immigrants usually spent about 2 to 5 hours on the island, but the brief medical and legal inspections only took a few minutes. Most of their time was spent waiting for their turn on benches in this impressive room. Changes in immigration laws shifted the way Ellis Island was used after 1924. Increasing arrival numbers led to new laws that restricted the amount of immigrants who were admitted and required them to obtain a visa before traveling. As a result, the flow of immigration was limited, and only those who were detained were transported to the island. In 1954, Ellis Island closed its doors as an immigration station when there were fewer immigrants than staff. The island was abandoned until 1965, when a presidential proclamation by Lyndon B. Johnson added the site to the Statue of Liberty National Monument. It would take several decades and a major restoration before the island could be reopened as a museum in 1990. As Ellis Island sat abandoned in the harbor for over a decade, the government was unable to find a buyer for this expansive property. Though it was exposed to the harsh elements without proper maintenance, the relatively isolated setting preserved much of the evidence of what occurred here. The building and architecture are a testament to the demands of immigrant processing during the Great Atlantic Migration. There was a consistent need for more space during the island's operating period, which resulted in the expansion of the buildings and the island itself. The exterior of this building is just as awe-inspiring as this room. Completed in 1900, it replaced the original modest wooden structure destroyed by fire 3 years earlier. Designed by the New York architectural firm Boring & Tilton, the grand Beaux-Arts edifice features elaborate, classically inspired limestone ornament and granite trim incorporated into bold patterns of masonry, topped off by 4 copper-clad cupolas rising at each corner that create the most iconic architectural imagery of Ellis Island. Visitors to the museum can explore exhibits that cover the history of immigration in the U.S. They can walk the path taken by immigrants processed here, and they can even connect with their ancestors in the American Family Immigration History Center. In the Great Hall, natural light pours in through unique half-circle windows and highlights the magnificent Guastavino arched tile ceiling. The main immigration building on the north side of the island has been restored, and this room nearly looks the same as it did when the last immigrants were processed here. On the south side of the island, special hard hat tours allow visitors to explore the unrestored hospital complex that shows the passage of time. Ellis Island remains nearly 30 acres of a physical representation of one of the largest migrations of people in recorded history. While a portal of hope and freedom for most, it was an island of tears for those who were turned away when they failed to meet the requirements of immigration laws and regulations. The island setting and lack of later uses helped to preserve Ellis Island as a more complete representation of immigrant reception, examination, and detention than any other global property.